Let's now review what reconnaissance is. So reconnaissance is the first phase of any attack, not only penetration tests, right? So every time you have to attack anything, you do your recon. Yeah, that's the same, pretty much the same category of activities in military or in hacking or in ethical hacking. So you have to know your client better. You have to know your scope better. You have to identify every asset in the scope, or as many assets as possible in the scope, and you have to understand the nature in which all this stuff, all these assets interconnect and the relations they have with each other. So for that, we basically map the attack surface. We create a map of what we have at the table. The attack surface is just another way of saying what we are dealing with, right? So what are all the possible ways of attacking the target? Okay, so this is identified first of all by the vector the target could be attacked. It can be either external or internal. Difference between them in modern infrastructures is very blurred, but still there is some boundary. There is someone who has some initiate level of permissions, yeah, someone who is granted some rights in the systems, and there is someone who has zero knowledge and doesn't have any permissions at all. So the first guy is an insider, is a threat agent of internal vector, and the second guy is an external attack threat agent. Okay, and there are different assets, as I said. Asset is basically anything of value that can be either a system or an application or a person or a business process or a piece of data or a specific document or a specific computer of a top level managerial executive. Okay, so that can be an example of a set. What can we do about it? So as you see, reconnaissance fits into a general, more abstract workflow of an attack execution in the very early stages, right? So it's the first thing we do. Why? Because basically we collect required information for every subsequent phase. Okay, so we feed every later phase of a penetration test with the data we collect during the reconnaissance. So in this terms, reconnaissance is considered by many as the most important and even critical phase of a penetration test, because the better you do your recon, the more smoothly, the more thoroughly you will execute everything else. And there is even this 80-20% rule that we will discuss further. But at this point, I want to emphasize that reconnaissance is important in many different ways, but most probably the level and the quality of the reconnaissance will result in the quality of all other results of all other different phases, including the final reporting phase. And it's also very important in terms of resource management, because everything that goes down here, yeah, it's not normally in this strict order, you know. So yeah, we do something, we do some activities, and they naturally fall down into different subsequent phases of a general penetration testing approach. But you have to remember that all these things they are interconnected. So if you, for example, find something you have missed from reconnaissance in a very late reporting phase, or when you are collecting the evidence already, yeah, you are already into the infrastructure, you have, I don't know, domain admin access, you can access any database, and then you have this file share where there is a Visio file with network schematics, and you find out that you have completely missed a specific network that still belongs to the client, that is formally in the scope, but you have not discovered it during the reconnaissance phase. The situation is unfortunate, but still, this happens more often than we would like to. And what you should do, you should go back to the reconnaissance phase and go through all these activities much faster, of course, because you already have a lot of knowledge about the client, but still, you will have to go through all these steps. And at the reporting phase, I bet you don't have very much time left. So this is not a thing you want to happen to you, and that's why you have to be very, very thorough during the reconnaissance in order to limit the probability of this situation to the minimum. And you totally do that by performing your recon in the most detailed and thorough and accurate way possible. Okay, so there are a lot of tools for that, there are methodologies for that, and any contemporary penetration testing methodology outlines in very big detail what should be done during the recon, and there is a separate section of tools in Kali, for example. Yeah, so recon by itself is very interesting discipline, and the open source intelligence is a tool that goes much further than just understanding what the scope is and what the system are and what the application do from open sources of information, right? So in order to avoid unfortunate situation and in order to elevate the value and the quality level of your penetration test report, you have to do reconnaissance the best way you could. Okay, for that we have methods. Methods are outlined in standards, and standards are something very, very virtual, but okay, just to name a few here, let's start from the third one. You most probably already know that NIST has this special publication series number 800 that is dedicated to security. So anything NIST ever disclosed to general public is in this series, and the document number 115 is dedicated specifically to security testing. So here I think it's mostly for history reference, but still, this is the first good document that outlines security testing activities on a very general level. So it may be not very new, not very state of the art, but still it's still relevant because of its level. It's on a high level, so it generalizes over everything else. And PTES and OSTEM are different one from another, mostly because OSTEM is created as a standalone document that outlines how to maintain the highest level of quality and actionability in the reporting. At least I understand it, its goal as that. Okay, OSTEM stands for, let me try to spell it. It's Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual, I guess. Yeah. So as you might suggest from that, the guys who created OSTEM, they are very, very accurate and very specific in what they require. And PTES is mostly the effort of the well-known white hat hackers to create, first of all, the first part, the standard, penetration testing execution standard, that shapes the idea of what has to be done in order to be called a successful penetration test. Okay, so that's like what you should do. And there are technical guidelines. It's a separate thing. It's like the tree of tips and hints and tools and cheat sheets of how to actually do that. So the standard outlines what to do, and the guidelines outline how to do that. This is very important because it's like the living organism. It's always updated, and it's very modern. So I would say that PTES outlines how to do things in terms of penetration testing, how to execute penetration tests. So for you and me, it's very much relevant. And OSTEM it's how to maintain quality. So it's rather very important for people who consume penetration testing services, right? So if I would request a penetration test, I would say, guys, I want you to do something in line with PTS, definitely, but I want to produce the report that could be assessed and certified in terms of OSTEM version 3. Okay? Yeah, so that's the difference.